So I thought what I would do is start with the kind of history of GD&T and talk about some myths. And early in my career at Caterpillar, probably 1997 or so, some of the contractors would kind of be negative and say, "Yeah, GD&T is really a joke. It's really not ever going to be a thing." And it kind of made my attitude bad to not want to learn it. And as a young person, we chew on everything, learn everything we can, right? And I hope to have that all past my retirement. I want to be young and nimble and how I learn for the rest of my life. And sometimes our attitude gets in the way. So these contractors said if you put GD&T on a drawing, the the shop that's building your parts are just going to charge 30% more. And it really set my attitude kind of bad. If they would have never told me that, I would have been a GD&T expert, you know, way sooner. I'm not saying I'm an expert now, but I would have been well on my way. And my attitude kind of got in the way because I let someone else's bad attitude kind of taint mine. So the history of GD&T is interesting in that um, during World War II, the English were getting the Germans were giving them a terrible time, right? With uh, air attacks and they had submarines out off the coast of England, just wreaking havoc. And one of the quality control engineers noticed uh, sub some torpedoes that were scrapped. So he walked by and just started to kneel down and look to see what the problem was. They taped the uh, you know a, a note to it saying that these tolerances were out. But he started to look at the tolerances and figured out that these things would fit. There's no reason to scrap these, even though it's out of tolerance. The square tolerance zone was off. So he kind of started to put some of these parts together to see if they would fit, and sure enough, they did. He goes, "Don't scrap these. We're getting, basically our ass handed to us, so we need to throw everything we got at them." And that quality control engineer started to think about a geometric tolerance zone that might give them a little bit more leeway. And ultimately, it doesn't really matter if the tolerance is out, it just needs to fit. Now, Motorola took it somewhat further. It was probably 1990, uh, even earlier, 94. And I went with my engineering manager to a beryllium battery contact uh, manufacturer. They're making our battery contacts, and the every 20 off the assembly line, they would give a spreadsheet of values, and it was pretty clear that they were off the mark on a handful of the tolerances. So my manager kind of gave them a hard time, but said, "Don't rework it. We don't have time." We haven't actually started to tool up the plastic part that this thing fits into. So they allowed the contract manufacturer to live with those mistakes just as long as they're consistent. And then we adjusted our tolerances, our geometric dimensioning in the plastic part that they went into. And consequently, everything fit great. I never saw that before. That was new to me. Usually you have them scrap it and start over, right? So what I want to do is talk a little bit about that history and get us kind of out of our head about it because GD&T is a way to save money, and if if anything's going to make us recession proof in term at work is to be invaluable and to be a leader in all these things. And if we can save money, why not? That's really what GD&T is all about, making it cheaper and less scrap. So I started to build this little shape here. This is something out of our Learn to Design course. And what I'm going to do is right hold down and reach for this modify button and kind of drag some of these dimensions around. Oh, look, I missed one. So you can click on it with the control key and it automatically adds it to the dialog box. This is one thing that's different between a mid-range tool and a high-end tool. The high-end tool, I could hold the control key and add to it. And look, now the whole thing scales. That this has been in Creo since Wildfire 2, but pretty cool. Now I can just type on one of these numbers and type in 2.5 or whatever it is, and then now my part's a more appropriate size because I started a little bit too big. All right, so what I want to do next is talk about model-based definition. I remember hearing Deb say MBD, and I was like, man, all these acronyms drive me crazy. MFG, TMB, uh, model-based definition, or is it multi-body, right? So I'm just not a three-letter acronym person, but I know our managers are. So if you hear me ever make a three-letter acronym, I'm being passive aggressive about it. I'm just being funny. Uh, but so this part is let's talk about MBD. So I've got this annotate button, right? So if I make a drawing out of this thing, that's going to be my front view. There's my top view. There's my right view. So I'm under the annotate tab. So I think of, young people, I tell them annotate's kind of like a dimension on a 3D model. So although we've got the word dimension in here, right? So this is the basics of GD&T. In our 2-day GD&T class, we'd probably spend an hour and a half playing in the model-based definition. And the super value is if we can set up all these GD&T values inside the 3D CAD model, it just automatically displays in the detail drawing, which is what we're trying to do, save time. Nobody wants to spend hours and hours building drawings, but we all do it. Okay, so let's look at that again. I got annotate, I got the front view, and if I click on active plane, it shows me the front view. So this is probably new, I think, in like Creo 2, Creo 4, something like that. So if this is new to you, speak up. I'm curious. The only way I know if it's new is if I'm in a Creo user conference in person and people are like, well, back up. What did you just do? So clicking on this sets the drawing view that the dimensions are going to be in. Now I can come over to this Show Annotations button and click on the model. Remember how we show the model dimensions in the detail drawing? It's the same thing. So I can select them all and say, okay, and now they're always on the screen, which can be irritating, but most folks don't know that that's what this button does. The annotation tab turns them on or off because it's a little confusing having all the dimensions on the screen. Now I extruded this thing in a particular direction because I'm particular about that stuff, but my dimensions are actually on the sketch that are on the plane. And if you need them to be a little higher up, you can just left click on the dimension, right hold down, and move it to a particular plane, which is a bit confusing because the other dimensions are still on it. And as you can imagine, you can hold the control key down and fetch all the dimensions, right hold down, and move them to the proper plane. So I try to encourage, young people that are taking our Learn to Design course or even seasoned veterans taking our surfacing classes, um, to go slow for a minute. Let me show you all the cool new things that are in Creo. Sometimes the surfacing course could be 30% um, Creo update training plus surfacing. So um, the more experience we have, I think the more we have to learn, because the software has changed so much over the years.
Hey, Bart, it's Deb. I was just wondering if I'm seeing some names that maybe people aren't familiar with what company you work for, so maybe you want to just say that quickly.
Yeah, Design Engine is a product design firm. We do everything from uh, training, I think is what most people know us as. Most people that hire us for consulting took the training course. Like Herman Miller has had a wide variety of surfacing courses, and the seating manufacturers will hire us to get us ahead of the eight ball, and we'll build the model with the robust sort of modeling that we're known for in our training. Um, so we do everything from goggles for Oakley to medical devices. There's a couple coworkers on here that, the first things out of their mouth would be something else, we 20 products a year or so. At one point, I had over 150 products at Target. I mentioned that at a conference, a holiday party, and one of the owners of the design firm called BS on me, and he was most of the products I had on the market were from Beyond Design because I was the engineer there, and they had, to be funny, he was counting the entire line of Scoochie hair combs as one product. I was counting that as 14. So most of the products were from Beyond Design, at that year. It was 2004 or something like that. Barbie flashlights to hair combs. All right, so design engine. Um, and I've been speaking at the conference for what, 25 years, Deb?
30.
30? Yeah, been a while. So I've shown the dimensions on the screen, and look, they're in position where you want them to be. So there's a bunch of things you can do. You can create an annotation feature. Um, I'm on the technical committee to help PTC develop the tool, but one of the things I like to do with the annotation feature is just make notes in the model tree. If we're doing a plastic part design, I might put a note in here that says TPE starts here. And that's nice for me when I come back a year later. You gotta, that's nice. So I can, any features after this that is for the soft touch rubber. Um, so there's other things that we can do with model-based definition. So I'm going to stop, playing with this for now, but show dims is how we call it when we're showing dimensions in a detail drawing. So if I make a detail drawing out of this, all the dimensions that I used automatically are sort of earmarked for the drawing, which makes it so much quicker. Another thing I try to get uh, people to do, even seasoned veterans, because if you got 700 to a couple thousand features on the model tree, show all is just overwhelming, and that's going to make me want to take a 2 hour lunch. So what I do is I tell people to show the dimensions one feature at a time, and then move the dimensions or determine whether you want to get rid of them or not, or you're going to take it back to the sketch to change it. All right, so let's be done with that. Um, so if you're not familiar with Design Engine, I would say most people on the talk have probably had a course with us at some point over the years. Um, I'm going to log into the training material, and if anybody wants to look at this training material with me over Zoom, you can send an email to me, and I'll be more than happy to show you this stuff. It's pretty. I think it's really cool. I'm making it, so I'm probably a little bit full of it then. So I've got a whole week of GD&T training material. Most of the time, it's a 2 or 3 day class. Um, all right. So my first job doing GD&T was 1992. And my dad and I sat down and looked at the GD&T book. You buy a ASME 14.5 book. It cost $75 back in those days. Um, and we spent all weekend looking at it because I had a job that required GD&T. So I spent it was AutoCAD. I spent part of the day building the model, and I turned it in. And the checker wanted to know what the box was around the text. And I didn't quite know how to answer it because I thought it was a trick question. Well, it's a basic dimension. I explained what a basic dimension was, and he got really annoyed and said, "We don't do that here." And the job description was GD&T. What I didn't realize is that there's a bastardized version of GD&T at this company. Part of it's from the 50s, part of it's from the 60s, part of it's from the 70s, and well, I think actually it was like 1990. And so every 11 years, these group of software manufacturers and engineers, Mark Golco could go visit as part of the conference, and they all kind of sit around a table and argue about what to leave in and what to take out for the next year. So 1984 was one of the years that they released the new standards. I think 2009 was a release, and 2018 is a release. So what the software manufacturers do is they kind of put their 2 cents in and say this software should work like this. And then they make their software do exactly what they voted on. So it's really hard to cheat and make the software do something that you like from 1970, you know? they've they've taken out that functionality. So be mindful of that as you experiment with this stuff. So this exercise I'm getting ready to play with is called the whole bar, and I've got probably 20 books on GD&T, and I took it from one of the books. And so what I'm going to do is go to that in our Learn to Design course and just talk through it for a quick second. So if you send an engineer that has maybe 1,000 hours on Creo, you would send them to our Learn to Design class, and we kind of send them back trying to show you something, right? So we do top-down design, detailed drawings, and they model all these blocks in a day. And some people get pretty frustrated because they think everybody else is building them faster than they are. And we talk through all the cool new things inside of Creo, like split bodies and what have you. And on day one, we're coming down here to look at sort of GD&T, and I pose this question: if you know GD&T, what's wrong with this thing? So design engine, we like to learn from mistakes, and you can't have a B datum with respect to a B datum. That doesn't make sense, right? So I like to leave some of these typos in here to just kind of think about it. So this one's a profile dimension that goes from X to Y. See? But you wouldn't have um, a maximum material condition on the tolerance for that as an example. So that's kind of wrong. Um, Not kind of wrong. Inappropriate might be a better word. Um, so there's two holes. This should say 2x here. Oh, there it is. Yep. So that's good. Um, Here's another one. Perpendicularity should be relative to A, not BB. So little typos in there. let's let's build this thing. And my intention is to show you a few little, let me double check on the time. So my intention is to show you a few little tricks inside of Creo that I happen to be in Creo 12. Creo 13's released. Did anybody download that yet? Okay, so
Bart,
I'm
I was just going to say, I think it's not officially released until the middle of May. Is that, do you know?
oh, is that true?
That's what I think.
Okay.
They usually do it then, yeah.
I'm good because I feel bad because I feel like I'm the first one to download it. One of the applications engineers, I keep bugging him when it's going to come out, and he goes, "It's going to be on the website at 4 a.m. tomorrow morning," and I'm like downloading it at 4 a.m. Early adopter to a default. Okay, so I built this sort of whole bar example, and I'm just going to dimension it like it's required. Oh, it's already got that dimension on it. Okay, so what else? 45. Let's see. I think it's got this height to it. I need to refer to the drawing. I think this is 150. I believe that's about right. And if it's wrong, we fix it. And I believe it's 75 thick. Okay, so let's go to our annotate button and think about this, right? So I've got my annotations are turned on, but none are showing. What view do I want it to be in? So I click on the front view, and now any dimensions I show are going to be in that front view plane, kind of like I'm in a detail drawing. So I pick that, and just like I'm in a detail drawing, I'm just going to pick them all. Now, the ones that are behind there, you don't see, right? So that's kind of annoying. So I can grab that one while I'm at it. I grab them all, right? But if we need to practice, you do them one at a time. So, like we need to practice. So I'm going to say, move all those to this plane. Now they're on the front, right? This one's got to be 0 decimal places. So we'll just punch that to 0. And the rest, I'll leave at what the in metric, you have a trailing a 0 in the front, right? So let's see. This is supposed to be 120. Cool. And then let's take all these and make those a basic dimension. So if you're looking for this stuff, you could be kind of challenged to find where the basic dimension's located. This is the box around the text that the CAD manager in 1990 asked me, "What's the box around the text?" We don't do it that way. I was like, "Okay, got your own way to do GD&T. That doesn't make sense, but I hear you." Um, great. So now I got to put the holes in. Let's go take a quick look at move the zoom window out of the way. So if I put this hole in and then this hole in as a separate or pattern it, I won't be able to show these dimensions in this way. So when people are learning Creo and they're coming from SolidWorks, it's clear to me that they don't even know SolidWorks because this is how SolidWorks would do a hole. You have a sketch. I'm going to set it to 2.5, and I think it's supposed to be 0.5. I built a sketch, and the sketch is going to have the holes in it. See, zero point 0.6. So at the end of all those, at the end of my sketch, let me check out of it and show you what I mean. I'll hit hole, and it puts the hole at the sketch. It's funny because when I tell people SolidWorks, that's how you do it in SolidWorks, they're like, "No, SolidWorks doesn't work that way." Then I have to fire up SolidWorks and show them. And they're like, "When was that new in SolidWorks?" I don't know. The same thing that we think about in Creo. When was that new in Creo? So that hole now has one dimension on it that I can assign my GD&T to. It's 344. All right, so let's start putting other GD&T values on it. So notice I'm rotating my screen. If if I want if I'm really smart about it, I would create a named view, and I have a map key that would let me organize my view. In this case, the map key doesn't exist in Creo because I teach people how to build the map key or the macro. So it doesn't work, but it's you want to have it set to a very particular angle because that's what's going to show in your detail drawing. Or if you um, want to set up the named views so that the people in the shop, the inspection team can have a 3D annotation set up like this. Okay. So this one's got to have 3 decimal places if that's how you're rolling it, inches. All right, let's put this tolerance on the profile tolerance from X to Y. So I would go to my annotation tab and put this leader note here and say X and then Y. And then, so when we teach the course, we're thinking in terms of how would someone inspect this? So I would probably have some sort of piece of cut out aluminum where I can push this up into the cavity and see if I see light in the geometry that measure how much clearance I have. So that we want to think about GD&T in terms of how does one inspect it. So now I'm going to come over to the GD&T tolerance and place it on here, middle click to place the GD&T tolerance. And then I can click on it and start changing what language it's using. So the profile, by the way, is what old school NASCAR would. When I say old school, I mean 2015, where they would take a profile and set it over the hood of the car. And if you see light coming through the car, they've changed and they've veered their aerodynamics and they're going to be disqualified. So I like to think of these in terms of how you inspect the geometry. So it's asking for two. So O2, what that means is, and I'm gonna build an illustration of it inside of Creo using surfaces. I can offset. I'm using the shift key to get over to here. You see how I offset it? So if it's 20 thousandths of an inch, I'm going to go 10 thousandths one way, and I'm just going to exaggerate it a little bit and put it 30 thousandths one way. Then I'm going to offset it the other way. I'm using the shift key to get around to the other side. By the way, we've been asking PTC to do it this way because this is how you do surfacing. And when people take a update training class, they want to get it back to how it used to be. And that's not probably how we want to roll, explore all the cool new stuff. So I'll make this one 30 just to be exaggerated a little bit. And what I'm going to do is just extrude a surface so you can see what the tolerance zone is. And right, so I'm going to extrude it as a surface, cap the ends. I'll make it extend just a little bit, a bit above, and then I got to color it maybe a different color. Um, So I'll right click through and grab the surface body, middle click, and then edit that color to be a transparent color, like a good 70%. So that's what the tolerance zone means when you look at that profile here. Let's make it relative to A, B, C. So you just type PTC shouldn't let me do a lowercase letter here. It should just convert it to capital letters. Um, Not usually in that part of the. Right. And then maximum material conditions not appropriate in this case. We've determined that that might be a mistake. And how do I get the arrows to go from X to Y? Let's experiment with it. You could set it to be all the way around, like your weld symbol. You all weld all the way around. Um, Come over here to additional text. This is where I want my arrow to be. Now, if you don't remember this, right, you can bug me for it, and I'll do his lunch and learn with you. But you can go to this symbols directory while you're in the middle of this dialogue. Creo has a lot of little tricks like that. I want this one. Look at just put it in there for me. So but I want to go from capital X to capital Y. I put a lowercase y in there to make a mistake to show you that it's, everything's capital. It should just automatically make it capital for you. So from X to Y, I'm measuring with that sort of tolerance zone. I'm just going to hide the surfaces so it's gone. But you get that. I just wanted to illustrate what that ultimately means. I hope I'm not talking down to anybody. I don't know what you guys know, so I'm just throwing stuff at you. All right, so let's do another one with the annotate. Let's put a let's show the annotation for the whole. There's my 34. Okay, so I told which dimensions need to be showing in what ultimate view, like I'm in a detail drawing, and then these need to be basic dimensions, theoretical numbers. Okay, so in this case, my sketch that I built, remember when I put the hole in, I dimensioned it wrong, right? So I'm going to delete that hard dimension and reestablish the dimension the way I meant to do it. Couldn't do that if you built the hole or patterned it, right? So this sketched entity is really smart way to build stuff. The cool new way, if you will. Of course, it's 10 years old, but that's what we do. We learn new things, right? So let's see. Um, Show dimensions. Look, I could show the dimensions right out of this the feature tree. Set that as a basic dimension. And these as well. All right, so this one needs some positional tolerance to it. So I'm trying to pull it down. Of course, it's not letting me move it. I'm just going to go ahead and pop the geometric tolerance on it. So to do that, you pick the actual dimension itself. It tends to remember the last thing you put in, which could be a bit annoying. I'll just punch it to positional, go to my additional text and remove through X and Y. You need a maximum material condition. And yeah, so again, I come over to my symbols and put my M in there. One thing that kind of annoys me with PTC is they they don't just make this dialog box big. They make it small so you can have to drag down the arrow. I wish I could be more involved in beta testing. All right, so there's my maximum material condition. And look, it drops the icon right in the dialog, which is pretty cool. And we're relative to ABC, so I'll just leave that. Let's see if it lets me move the icon any better now. Yeah, I don't know. Dexterity's off on my mouse. Okay, so um, just double check. I've got positional tolerance with 12. Let's think about what that means. So I'm going to take and illustrate what that means using a surface just like I did before. I have my surfaces turned off, so it's not going to show. So typically, the square references look like that. So I'm going to left click on each of these and turn this to construction geometry. And what I'm going to do is draw with the annotation tab. All this is bonus area. And I shouldn't use the word bonus because you have a maximum material boundary. And so anyway, this is extra room. The cylindrical uh, middle click. Let's see. I wanted to turn this to construction geometry. It'd take. Okay. And now I'm going to extrude that as a surface and cap the ends just like I did before. My layers are off, so it's going to disappear. But that's the first thing we think about with surfacing is that it's probably on a layer, right? And then right click through and grab that shape. Right click through is the same as coming down here to hit quilt down here. It's just faster to just right click through instead of dragging your mouse to the bottom of the screen. And then I go to assign that material to it. So that's what that means. It's um, a tolerance zone where the center of the circle can be moved around. All right. So the rest of this stuff is kind of the same thing over and over. And um, in this case, I have some tolerances that I can adjust. Um, Earlier today, one of my coworkers was unable to get the tolerances to show, and we had to go and turn on the config.pro because PTC, the default config setting, has tolerances off. And we set the tolerances to favorites so we could remember what we picked. And then your DTL file on the drawing has to have tolerances on too. If anybody wants to go through that, I can go through that. This was supposed to be 005 and cool. I don't have my 2x on there. I always forget in drafting, does the 2x go before the number or after the number? I'm still kind of unsure of that. I need to have a set of drawings next to me to refresh my memory with that stuff all the time. So notice how there's two 250s. That's because I showed those dimensions. If I wanted to be smart about it, and of course it's extra work, um, I could take this sketch that derived these holes and build an alignment to it so that the dimension goes away. How do I get that dimension to go away? Well, it needs to be associated with the top of this hole. So it's a little bit of a challenge. If you're trying to be particular and always show your dimensions, which I think is kind of not the smart way to do it. Does everybody know the difference between this point and this point? And I mean, sketcher mode. This point will mature once it extrudes to an axis. Now I'll redefine um, the sketch that I used to make the holes. I'm going to align it. This might not be necessary, but I'm just kind of doing a thought exercise. I'm literally going to align this to the axis, and then I'll force a vertical on the sketch itself, and then left click, right hold down, and turn that to construction geometry. Now the 250 is gone, and it won't let me show that dimension inappropriately. As you move the geometry around, that hole is going to go and be always lined up here. And that's kind of the assumption that they're trying to make here. All right, what else? We got to assign some datums. Let's do that real quick. Annotate geometric tolerance. So what I'm going to do is take this icon here, which was new in the, I think was that in between 84 and '09 somewhere, they switched to this icon. So what I did is I right clicked through and grabbed that. Went, I took the icon, or I'll delete it and do it again. I took the icon for the defining datums, and I hover instead of rotating it around like our amateur version of ourselves. I'm going to right click, left click, and fetch it. Okay. So now what I want is for that arrow to be pointing in a different, straight in. So I can left click on it, right hold down, and change orientation. Instead of flipping it, I can come up here and say I meant for it to be on the left plane. You see this left plane here is highlighting. So that's pretty cool. And that's pretty clear that this is pointing to the back face, even though you can't see the back face. Typically, if the line is dashed, then it's pointing to the back face. So there could be a user interface option to make that line dashed. For die-casted parts, we're often defining a square or round location for the probe so that when I probe that geometry, I can have it set up on my CNC machine to do the machining operation. So that's something that I'm not going to take time to cover today with 15 minutes left, but you get the idea. Let's see, I got perpendicularity back here. Let's do that. Right click, left click, middle click to place the control frame. And then it's asking for perpendicularity. So I'll fetch that out of there. And it can't be with respect to C because this is C. Let's see if Creo will let me make the mistake and do it kind of wrong. First off, and that's new in Creo 12. It's catching my typos for me. It'll, like if I try to add a symbol here for maximum material condition, I hope it yells at me and says you can't do that. Yeah, I don't think Creo 11 does that. That's pretty cool. Good job, PTC, right? Um, so over here, let's see if it'll let me add a turn this back face into a C. It let me do a B. I would hope maybe it would give me an error, but still let me do it, you know? Oh, look, it changed something over here. That's weird. Um, so this would be with respect A, B. Okay, so it started to be B and then I changed it, which is why it changed these. So that's easy to make a typo. Be careful. So this perpendicularity is literally pointing to that wall, which is the C reference plane. I don't have the B reference plane at the bottom, so let's establish that. Right click, left click, middle click. All right, and it's also perpendicularity. And It is B, so that's going to be respect to A and C, I think. So let's try that. Whoops, this one. You literally click the icon and you middle click to place it. That is B, and then this would be A and C. Or just yeah, see there's a typo there. You can't reference both of them. So usually it's just reference to the A. I'm making a mistake here. There we go. This one too. It makes sense for perpendicularity because it's the plane that I'm going perpendicular to. All right. Um, that's I'm missing anything?
Maybe we could ask for questions.
Sure. Oh, I don't have this whole that's a good one. Remember when I put this point this point in the model? It when this sketch extrudes, that point matures into an axis. Now, we could just add an axis as a separate feature, but the counter in us hates that. So now I can left click. Notice I picked the surface and pre-selected the surface and the sketch. And if you do that pre-selection and reach for the hole tool, it automatically puts the hole in for you. Creo 5 wouldn't let you pick both of those like that. I'm going to right hold down on the yellow arrow here and tell that to go through all. That was new in like Wildfire 4, I think. And I think the hole was supposed to be 75. I'll just do that. And then middle click. Now I've got to get my annotation so it show annotation. There it is. It just automatically showed because I had it highlighted. And then that 75 is called out as a basic dimension. Now, I would say too, if you're going to have a GD&T class, make sure the guys in the shop are in the class. They might not know Creo that well, but at least they're learning what these things do so they can try to speak that language. And if you've ever tried to learn Spanish in high school or whatever, you're really not good at it until you're thrown into that environment to practice speaking. And that's the same with GD&T. You just got to make some mistakes and go with it. Let's see, basic dimension. Good. And let's, oh, no, it's not a basic dimension. It's calling it out as a positional. I'm making a mistake here, right? Let's do that. Let's see, I'm under annotate, pick the position tolerance, and he has the maximum material condition, and he is with respect to ABC. And he's got 3 decimal places on it. And then lastly, let's drop it all into a drawing and see how it looks, right? Because we don't want to do it twice. We want to do it once in the model and then it shows in the drawing. And by the way, that was discussed in the 2009 ASME standards. What goes to court is no longer the drawing. What goes to court is the model. And if this product were to injure somebody because the die casting broke, they would look in wind chill. The expert witness would look into wind chill and see if the process was documented appropriately. Did they do the proper FEA? Did they use an electron, some sort of microscope to look, scan the part and see any pores inside the die casting or whatever? And was it appropriately dimensioned? and did, where's the fault? And then they figure out that the person was just driving too fast. So that made sense. All right, let's drop it into a drawing real quick, see how it looks.
Hey Bart, I have a question for you.
Go for it.
Okay, so our company just switched over to Creo 10 not too long ago from Creo 4, and we added the GD&T extension
Yeah.
onto it as well. And I was
Yeah,
playing
I'm not
around.
using the GD&T extension. I'm
Right, I
just
see
using
that.
stock Creo. Yeah.
Yeah, so but I was just wanted to verify because I was playing around with legacy parts that had existing geometric, dimensions and tolerances on it. And when I brought it into GD&T Advisor, it didn't recognize any of those.
That might be because it was all done in the drawing, kind of like our our peers who, uh, you know, I could be wrong, but GD&T Advisor, I've not played with it. I believe that works at the part level, right? Not the
Yes,
drawing. Yeah,
correct.
so most people kind of fake it all in the drawing. The way you want to do it's in the part, and look, it just showed in the drawing. All I got to do is move stuff around, and I'm done. Think it's pretty cool, actually. It looks like these didn't come up with my basic dimensions. I think I had those as basic dimensions before. I'm not sure what's up with that. Uh, my tolerances are turned off in my config, my DTL file, so it's not letting me go and do that. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but I think I could be wrong, and I'd love to have this conversation. I didn't pay for the GD&T advisor. That's extra for us.
Right, right. Okay, yeah. Well, I created a part and annotated it in the part and then
Oh,
pulled it into GD&T Advisor and it didn't pick it up. It
oh, it
said,
didn't pick it up then. Oh, okay.
yeah, it
Yeah,
said,
I'm gonna have to claim a little bit ignorance. I don't have any experience with the GD&T advisor. I think that's made by a separate company as well.
yeah, it's
So
Sigmetrics.
yeah, um, I bet you if you got them on the horn, they would show you what you're doing wrong pretty quick.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I've met them at conferences before, and they're all pretty cool.
Hey Bart, Brad here for Mercury. What do you feel are the advantages of adding those annotations in the 3D model versus placing them on that 2D drawing page?
So there's a couple different ways to answer that. Um, if you do it in the model, you're thinking holistically, and the model is what goes to court, not the drawing, if there's an injury. And the other way to look at it is model-based definition's the cool new thing. And the real holdup for model-based definition is the guys in the shop want a sheet of paper to look at. They want to tape the piece of paper up to the die casting machine so when they get the part off, they can inspect it. That's the holdup. The guys
I
in the
follow
shop
you. So
should
you
have
envision like
iPads.
someone pulling this up on the screen, yeah, rotating and finding these key dimensions and where to clamp it
Yeah, they
based
probably
like
don't have a
machine
mouse,
output.
so they're going to be. I let go of the mouse and I'm trying to rotate it with my precision workstation. It could be a challenge.
I
Yeah.
know back in the day, this is Mark at Merck. I know back in the day, we big castings, whatever. We'd originally create the models. You don't know where you're going to put your datum structure. We talk with manufacturing and everybody, they'd weigh in. Then we'd go back and we'd kind of rebuild the model using that datum structure. But that would just take a ton of time. And nowadays, what we do is we kind of, we don't always know where our datum structure is going to be when we start out. We make our parts, and then you put your datum structure in a lot of times after the fact, and then we just create all that on the drawing is typically how we do it now. I don't know if there's a better way to do that or not.
Yeah. I think it's just smarter to do it in the model and show it in the drawing. It's like, it's kind of like we fight it. Remember when we first
Yeah.
learned Creo, we want to create dimensions in the drawing, not show them in the drawing, you know. But I don't know. It's just I think smarter to do it in the model, and it's learning something new. So you know, embrace
Sure.
it. You know,
Thanks.
yep. I was telling Pete Prickett if you guys wanted a lunch and learn or something at Mercury Marine, I'd be totally love to meet everybody and do that. But it's up to you guys. You have to bug somebody to get it to happen.
I'll harass them some.
Yeah, cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, we don't charge money for those things, you know. So um here I'm gonna unhide my layers and get the surfaces back. That made sense, you know, it's a tolerance zone. I just made this really big to exaggerate the the values, you know. All right, well, I think that's my hour. Um, I'll put our website up here so you can um, remember me and my email address so that if you want to reach out and say hi, bounce any other questions, invite for a lunch and learn or take a class. Jasmine on my team is the one who signs up folks for classes, and I'm Bart at Design. I'm not the only one. We got some pretty smart people on our team. I'm just the only one willing to do classes. Um, everybody on my team's way better than me, you know. But there you go. I invite you to follow us on social media. Um, sometimes it's just me doing stuff. I did a housing in Creo that's pretty cool. This is what, you know, people that take a surfacing class get addicted to. It's how fast you model the part. And when I demo the surfacing as my next lunch and learn, I think coming up in April, uh, it's a housing and we flex it, and people get like think that I've canned this demo. But that's what the classes do. We teach you how to can all your models so they behave like this when you show off in front of your manager or marketing or what have you. If the model breaks, fix it so it doesn't break. You know, I think a couple coworkers are on here. John, speak up. Tell them that's for real. But I invite you to follow us on social media. Cool.
Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks, Bart, for taking time out of your Dallas trip to talk with us. And yeah,
Yep.
for Badgerland User Group, yeah, the only thing we've got coming up is our in-person event at WCTC, May 14th. And then I don't know if anybody on the call is going to the Global Summit in Las Vegas, but that's coming up the last week of April. So thanks, everybody. Thanks, Bart.